Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Joining me today on Calgary's podcast is Todd Sloan, principal and creative director of TAG Advertising. Thanks for joining us today, Todd.
Thanks, Mario. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
All right, let me ask you a little bit about TAG Advertising. Just explain a little bit about what you guys are and what you do.
Sure. TAG is now 32 years old. We're probably, if not the oldest, or one of the oldest advertising agencies in Canada, independently owned.
Mhm.
I started TAG 32 years ago, worked my way up through a couple other smaller agencies at that time. And again, this is 32 years ago, but things were done a little bit differently in the ad biz world. We would come up I come from the creative side, so I went to
Yeah.
what was ACAD back then, which is now AU Arts here in Calgary, and then just rose up through the ranks as a creative director with a couple other agencies. So at that time, when we would come up as creative people, would come up with the great ideas and the focuses and the strategies, we would have to then turn over that pitch document to affectionately called suits, account managers or owners or VPs of the ad agency itself. So we were sort of kept in the back room and throwing a pork chop over the wall every once in a while just to keep us going.
Yeah.
With all those great ideas. And then we would have to turn that over to others to pitch to the client.
Yeah.
So, as a creative person, it became very frustrating to have the team come back from after the pitch, and we're all excited as creative people. How did it go? Did you sing and dance and explain the strategy? And they just said, well, the client didn't really understand it, didn't get it. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to go back to the table and figure things out. So again, that became very frustrating as a creative person, not to be in the room to present our own ideas.
True.
When I started TAG 32 years ago, I flipped that around. I would always have the creative people present to the client directly in the boardroom of their ideas and their strategies. And things have changed over the 32 years, and things are done more like the creative people actually presenting the work directly to the clients. And that became very successful for us in the early days. We were considered, the young hot shop of Western Canada for a while there. In the first 5 years, we were won the Ernst & Young Nesbitt Burns Entrepreneur of Western Canada Award, which was great, and it was satisfying, right? And being an owner, but coming from the creative side, it was nice to know that I can also run the business.
Yeah.
Run it financially sound. We've done exceptionally well over those years. We've attracted a wide range of clients, everything from local, regional, some national accounts, and a couple international accounts.
So tell me a little bit about your background, Todd. How did you get involved in this this industry, and more the why? Like what attracted you to this whole field?
Yeah, well, in my high school days, I've always been interested in art, and I also paint and sculpt on the side.
Oh, cool.
I'm glad I have a second career as owning an ad agencies, because that's a tough struggle being an artist. So I realized that early on in high school days that I liked art and being creative, and coming from the fine arts side, I realized that might be a bit of a challenge making a living at it. So these two chaps from what was called ACAD then, the University of the Arts, came to our high school and did a little presentation on advertising and graphic design.
Oh.
And they said, if you work hard and become successful, you'll do really well on that side of being artistic. So it was great.
Yeah.
You get to be creative, you get to be artistic, and if you do well, you can sustain a living from it. So then of course, I enrolled in AU Arts, did my program there, and it was great. I had a wonderful time, learned a lot, and then again, I started TAG after working at a couple of smaller agencies as soon as I got out of school.
Oh. So, this is something that's always intrigued me is, the creative person who becomes a businessman or businesswoman. Tell me a little bit about that. Well, it's a transition, but it's not because you're kind of doing both, right? And was that a difficult thing for you?
It can be. It's great fun to be wild and creative and coming up with all these wacky ideas. And then, as you said, is the flip side of that is running a business.
Yeah,
And sometimes it can be two totally different mindsets. You have to make sure you hire the right people and you take care of them. So more and more, you're doing a little more H&R every year,
yeah,
taking care of staff and making sure the business is running securely and soundly, and not so much time focused on the creative. So
hmm,
I knew early on that I had to not only run TAG as a solid business, but of course attract very creative and talented people to do the creative and the strategy behind TAG. So over the years, we've attracted some great recruits, from art directors to writers to production artists, and it's been a good go.
yeah. So what, like today, do you find that you still have enough time to do the creative side, or does the business side take over a lot of your time? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, I still love being involved in the creative briefs and the challenges
Yeah,
the clients have for us. But you're right, less and less time of my focus is actually producing the creative, and it's more of the strategy, helping the client build their business as an entrepreneur themselves. How do I make their business grow? And it's more to do with business to business now instead of being a
yeah.
creative, which is great. They still let me wander the creative halls here at TAG and get my hands dirty with some creative and come up with ideas. So
Yeah.
it's a really nice group of people.
Okay. So, obviously, the business that you're in, you're helping brands, well, helping create brands, strong brands. Uh, what's the key? What's the key for a company in creating well, anybody can create a brand, but I guess it's the right brand and the strong brand that's important. How do companies do that?
Absolutely, and it's timing too. I mean, you're absolutely right as far as keeping awareness of what's going on in with their client base, along with what's going on in the world that we're living in, and it's changed a lot. When I
Yeah.
started TAG, I started it in a recession, and I've been
Oh, wow.
through what are we, three now recessions, and it's how to help clients transition through those recession times and become strong and get their brand out there and to the right audience. We've always had a philosophy around here. There are no small clients. We've helped small entrepreneurs grow their business over the years. And to that end, that's why they've been with us for 10, 15, and 20 years, is because we've stuck with them and we've helped grow their businesses. Um, and it's always amazing to talk to other entrepreneurs and small business owners who feel we don't have enough money for marketing, or there's nothing we can do, and we don't want to do cold calls. There's a lot that can be done on a small budget, especially with the advent of social media. I mean, a cost per click doesn't cost as much as a billboard. So there's a lot that can be done if the branding is on target and the strategy is correct. There's a lot they can do for a small budget.
What was the intent when you started the company with the name? What did you hope, that, what does tag resonate with people when they think of you guys?
That's a good question. So actually, when the company first started, it was called the Agency Group.
Ah,
And our clients just started calling us TAG, the acronym TAG, instead of the Agency Group. It was short, it was
yeah,
quite
yeah.
clever, it still worked. So we adopted it years ago. I think we were into sort of year 3 when we officially switched the name to TAG Advertising. I
Mm,
mean, TAG conjures up a whole bunch of things. Is labels, price tags, and how you're tagged as far as a brand.
yeah,
What are you labeled with? So it really worked for us, and we've grown with it. I mean, we've gone through, with all entrepreneurs and all businesses, you have to reinvent yourself a
yeah.
little bit every 5 years. So we've certainly done that for Tag, and we continue to do that for our clients.
All right, super. So, having a business in Calgary, can you talk a little bit about that, Todd? And what do you like about, I guess, having a business in this city?
I enjoy it. Calgary has been really good to me. I was not born in Calgary. I was born
Ah,
in Taber, Alberta, if you know
oh,
that.
yeah,
But we moved here when I was 2 years old, so practically a Calgarian. It certainly is a more oil and gas city for sure. Early on in Tag days, we did have, or we still have, some oil and gas clients, related clients who've
mhm,
become international in their scope. We wanted to be the agency that works with you, not for you. And today that still is very true, that we work with our clients. We just don't work for you. We're not yes people, but we'll definitely work with you. And it's your company, right? At the end of the day, we're dealing with entrepreneurs and marketing managers that it's their responsibility to grow their company. But it's really nice to find that fit, and that's what we look for, is a good fit. Calgary has always been a good fit and a central hub for Tag. Over the last couple years, we've branched out into other areas, mostly because of our digital clients. So, for example, we have a small satellite office in Spain and Australia. And that's mostly, it's a 1-2 man shop, but they're still under the Tag umbrella that
yeah,
handles a lot of our digital work. So Calgary's a great place. For business, there's a lot of head offices here,
yeah,
and it is a central hub for a lot of economic development here.
yeah. What advice would you give a young person who's starting a business? What would you tell them?
I've seen it before and I've seen it a million times, but don't get down on yourself. There's ups and downs. When those down times come around, and they will, when you're feeling like this is just too much to handle, or the finances aren't in order, surround yourself with people who are enthusiastic and are helpful. I would suggest any sort of business meetings that are available to you to talk to other entrepreneurs or other peers in your industry or outside of your industry. They're great people to
Hmm.
talk to. Just talk about the daily business functions of whatever your business is.
Anybody in the business world inspired you?
Um, Not specifically, not an individual. I mean, there's some great upstart young ad agencies that are coming up all the time, and it's great to see them do well. I've even had on staff a few of these people that have gone on
Yeah.
to their own ad agency, and that's really nice to see. It's
Yeah.
sometimes hard, but
Yeah.
it's nice to see that you've helped develop them into a place that they feel comfortable, that they want to take a shot at running their own ad agency. So that's really nice to see.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to go back to the creativity side of things. Uh, you know, from that perspective, like where the ideas come from?
In the shower. No, it's
Well, I'd be surprised. A lot of people have different places that things just pop in their heads or whatever.
absolutely. Years ago, I used to have a notebook beside my bed, and
Ah,
you'd come up with these ideas, and then you'd fall asleep, and then you'd forget them.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear you.
The next morning. So I would keep it, and I still do occasionally keep a notebook by my side table on my bed. You come up with this sort of wild idea, and it's great to write those ideas down because then you can have a fresh look at them in the morning. And sometimes with a good night's sleeping, go, oh, that's not such a good idea.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there's those sparks of those ideas go a long way. And then you get to share them with the rest of the team. And then, you run that by the rest of the group and say, is there some place to go further with
Mm,
this idea? So sharing ideas, I think, is very important, especially with us. We have work in pods in different groups,
oh, yeah.
and different groups. It'll be a creative director, an art director, and a writer together, and we have a couple of those pods that work in isolation of a campaign, and then we all get together, and then we come up with, well, that's a great idea, but what if we did that? So it's a great way to share ideas and help them flourish and grow.
Okay. So, interests outside of work, what do you do to kind of relax and wind down?
Yeah, I still sculpt, and I love it. It's hard finding time to do it, and it's been great. And I do it just for me. I do it
Mm,
because I enjoy it. It takes some stress away. It takes your mind away from the business. And I've been very fortunate. I call them Vogue bots. If anybody wants to see them, it's Sloan Concepts, Sloane Concepts, and they're called Vogue bots. They are a mixture of vintage typewriters, TVs. I take them apart and reassemble them into these sort of female robot shapes. I've been lucky enough and very fortunate enough to have a couple art shows in New York and in places in Australia and Europe. So very, very fortunate. But again, I don't do it to be noticed for that. I do it just for me and just for the relaxation and the joy it brings me to have somebody want to purchase one of them.
when did you start doing that?
Um, I took it on more seriously probably about 20 years ago. Like anything, it has evolved. The way I started them, I still illustrate. I still like sketching and drawing. So that's how it started with the 3D sculpting is I would draw or illustrate these pieces. And then, one day I was looking at, I think it was a typewriter, and it's such a beautiful thing, like those 1920 and 30 old cast iron
Yeah,
typewriters
yeah,
are beautiful pieces of art all unto themselves. I mean, nothing's built as well anymore as those were.
yeah.
So I was looking at that thing, and it's like, how do I take those keys or that technical industrial look and transform it into my drawings? So then I took my drawings and made them basically 3D using old vintage parts.
So the interest in sculpting, did it come from like a class that you took, or how did it
No,
all begin?
It mostly came again, I've always been creative on the creative side and enjoyed painting and drawing. The sculpting, I really enjoy it, and it just came out of uh, high school and came through college. In college, at the university,
Yeah,
they they make you not make you, they let you take various courses your
yeah.
first year. And then you have to major in, and I took advertising and graphic design in the second year. But the first year, you got to experiment with sculpting, jewelry, glass blowing, print making. So it was a great eye opener to the other mediums that were out there. So I think that's what helped lead me to sculpting.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Todd, for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having Mario. Always a pleasure.
All right, that was Todd Sloan, Principal and Creative Director of Tag Advertising. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Podcast with Calgary's Podcast. Thanks for joining us today.